So what I'm going to talk about today is a little bit about the independent claims practice that you all did, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our first essay that we are going to get ready to start. So the reason that I had you do this assignment was to start looking at, well, how do I look at other people's claims and how do I look at their argument to further mine? And then this first one, this guided practice section, this one is just something that you need to be mindful of as a writer and something you need to be mindful of when you're doing your research. So when you were looking at the flyer, what did you say that the claim was for this? What was this person's claim? The person who made this flyer, Thelma Tuckerson, what was her claim? Yeah, that Jeremiah should not run for treasurer. And she gave reasons saying that he's never had any experience in student government. He's not good at handling money. And then she gave examples for both. So on the surface, this looks really good. I mean, it's got sound reasoning, it's got a clear claim, but then you watch the video that was paired with it and you find out what? What do you find out about Jeremiah and Thelma? Yeah, a lot of Thelma's research was based on hearsay. It was based on gossip. And Jeremiah actually took her to the student court and he was saying, none of this is true. Okay, I may not have been in student government, but I'm the treasurer of the swim team. And all the while through that video, she's going, oh, well, I didn't know that. Oh, but Nancy said that, Mary said that, Beth said that. And you have to be mindful of this. And that's kind of the whole reason for this first section is, and I know your teachers have talked about this in the past, when you are doing research, you have to take into consideration the credibility of the source. Like, what is one site that your teachers have always they've warned you away from it because it's not always the most credible of sites to get research from? Yeah, Wikipedia, because anybody can go on Wikipedia and they can type the moon is made out of spaghetti and it'll publish it. Now, eventually somebody will come along and fix it, but who knows how long that incorrect information is going to be up. Now, another thing you have to be mindful of is bias. There are several websites out there that they only post things and they only post articles that fit their perspective, that fit their stance. Okay, like we just had the big presidential election. There are news sites that are strictly Democratic news sites, and then there's others that are strictly Republican news sites. Like CNN tends to lean more Democratic, while Fox News tends to lean more Republican. So you have to make sure while you're doing research that you are looking at both sides. You are looking at articles from both websites, and you're going, okay, where's the middle ground in here? Because if I'm looking at two different extremes, the middle ground tends to be showing truth from both sides. They're showing perspectives from both sides. And when an author has taken into consideration the other side as well, that article and that essay just becomes so much more well-rounded. So even as a writer, you yourself have to take into consideration and show the other side. It's not all about me, me, me. It's not all about that Jeremiah is a bad treasurer. He's going to be awful. We're going to lose so much money. It's taking into consideration that, okay, well, he doesn't have experience in student government, but he still does have that from the swim team. And it makes your argument stronger if you can include the fact that, oh, Jeremiah is the treasurer for the swim team, but Thelma is still the better candidate. If you can find a reason about her being a better candidate, all the while giving Jeremiah his credit, giving Jeremiah his due. Okay, and then going down to the independent practice. So looking at FDR's original inaugural address, his claim wasn't your stereotypical claim. It wasn't an argument essay claim where it's, oh, we should have school uniforms, vote for Thelma for school treasurer. He was making a claim for his presidency. And I gave you this paragraph, or these two paragraphs, just giving you a little bit of background, because not all of you are completely familiar with FDR when he was president and so on and so forth. So he became president, and probably one of the hardest ecological times in our country's history. And he wanted to reassure the American people, all the while setting himself up for success and getting his goals out there. What was his claim of this speech? What does he want for his presidency? What was his claim? Okay, that he's going to be a good president. And he's also making a claim about fear and pushing through fear. Okay, one of FDR's most famous quotes is, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." And he's trying to tell the people that, yes, we are having all of these problems. And yes, over around half of the country, half percent of the country is unemployed, and people are having a hard time finding food, and people are having a hard time finding jobs. And there's this big war happening over in Europe where the Nazis are trying to conquer Europe. Yes, all of these scary things are happening, but we can push through. We have nothing to fear except our own fear. We just have to push past it. And with that, he mentions reasons like unemployment. He mentions reasons like helping ourselves and getting ourselves back to work and pushing ourselves forward through work. And then he uses some slight evidence to support that. And the reason I asked this last question, is his evidence relevant, strong evidence? I actually wanted you guys to say no. Because if you looked at his evidence, while they were strong emotional pieces, him talking about fear, him talking about pushing past unemployment, he doesn't have any really strong facts, any relevant facts that can be considered evidence. And for his purposes, that was fine. But if he was actually using this in a debate against his opponent, like I think he was up against, I think he was up against Herbert Hoover in this election. If he was actually using this evidence in a presidential debate, he wouldn't have won the debate. Because yes, they were strong emotional pieces, but they were not strong evidence pieces. He didn't talk about the statistics. He didn't talk about the evidence. So when we pick evidence for our essays, we want strong, relevant evidence. And that's why in the digital breakout room that I had you guys do, there was pieces in it where you had to find examples for fact versus opinion. Opinions are all well and good, but when push comes to shove, they're not going to be the strongest evidence pieces. Because, like we talked about, opinions aren't factual. Yeah, you can think that, I don't know, Converse are the ugliest shoes in the world. But if I'm writing an article or if I'm writing an essay about which shoes are the most appropriate for sports teams, looks have nothing to do with it. And my personal opinion of ugly isn't helpful. Okay, so with this, if you need to, you can go through and just double check it. But really, it was more of I wanted to see your analysis of this. Okay. And the only one where there was really a right or wrong answer was this one. Because like I said, I wanted you to see that the fact that, yeah, it's relevant to the claim, but it's not really strong evidence. It's not really relevant evidence. It's more emotional pieces. Okay, so moving into